Welcome to Ghosts and Grit. Hey, what's going on? And welcome to Ghosts and Grit. So, this is a bit of an intro to the episode. We don't normally do these, but I just want to say that we recorded this episode the night the fires began here in Southern California. So I don't want listeners to think that we're being insensitive and not really diving into something which is turned into a huge tragedy that has personally affected me, my family, and so many friends and loved ones, not only that I know, but everyone in the city has a connection to this fire. I will be releasing an episode shortly talking about that, the experience, what I saw, just kind of breaking it down. But this episode, we are joined by Cindy Kaza. I say we because Aree jumped in on the episode as well because her and Cindy are like besties. So, I hope you enjoy the episode. We go on a bit of a tangent, so enjoy. Welcome to an episode of Ghosts and Grit. I'm your host, Jack Osborne, and I am being joined by my lovely wife, Aree.
Hi.
And we have one of our favorite guests, Cindy Kaza. How's it going?
Good.
Hi, Cindy.
Love you both. It's been a while.
This actually might be like the longest I've gone without seeing you in like the longest of time.
I think it's been exactly a year since I've seen you.
Wow. Oh my God. How did that happen? It's gone by so fast. Yeah.
When you came over and we ate Lebanese food.
Yeah. It's been a year. You're right.
So what's been going on? Fill us in.
Oh my God. So much. Been doing some filming, doing a lot of touring, making a lot of art, which I'm super excited about. I've gone into like this art portal for the last year, which has been really fun. Just having a good time working. Workaholic. That's what I do. I just work all the time.
You do. You really do work all the time. And your art, you've seen her art.
I have, actually.
She sent me a piece.
All right. Dive into that a bit.
Let's
talk
talk
more
about
about that because I'm curious because I've never known you to be an artist like that. I knew you were a musician, but not an actual painter.
She's an artiste.
Well, this is what happened. So in like 2008, I think that's when I learned automatic writing. So, I've done automatic writing on some of the shows I've been on. And after I'd been doing that for a while, I had this feeling like I need to pick up a paintbrush. And then I just started painting and faces started appearing. And I was like, oh shit, I've officially lost it. Check me in. I'm like, what is happening? Like, this is getting really weird, And I was like, I don't even know who these faces are, but I was like, it's got to be spirit, right? So it was an extension of automatic writing. But then I think I got like a little bit, I don't know, I artist, I think it's even as like a painter, I'm not a trained artist, so I was insecure about showing people my art for a while, and I just kind of put it away. And then I don't know, for the last like couple of years, I just have decided like to really embrace it more. And I think I did spirit art on Holzer files. I did it on dead files. And now I'm just like experimenting with different techniques, and it's been really fun. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's really cool.
All right. For people that don't know, what is spirit art?
Well, I mean, I call it spirit art, but it's channeled art. So I guess the way that I explain it is that I don't go into a piece of art knowing what's going to happen. So I really just start moving my hand, and then things start happening, right? So the pieces that I'm making now, I'm primarily using wax, encaustic wax on this. It's called Yupo paper. So I just take an iron, I put wax on it, gets hot, and I start moving the iron around, and then faces start coming out, but I don't even know that it's happening until the end. Like sometimes I'll rotate the page, and I didn't even see the face that I was creating, right? So I say it's channeled. It's not like technical in the sense where I'm looking at something and I'm like, I'm gonna draw that. But I think most art is channeled, unless you're trying to do something very specific or replicate something, right? Like I think art's channeled, music is channeled, like method actors, I think they're going to a special place. So do I think I'm like unique in that sense? Not necessarily. But for me, it's fun because I never know what's going to come out until the end. So it's like I'm excited to see where it's going because I don't have a plan, right? So it keeps me engaged. I think being an artist, like if I were trying to create something, I think I'd be frustrated all the time, like trying to get it perfect or a certain way. So it's very
Right.
freeing for me to just kind of like make art. It's like meditation.
Is it? Do you think it's kind of like tapping into the same place when you do like your automatic writing?
Exactly. It's an extension of automatic writing. That's what I think, So, yeah.
Very cool.
You sent me a totem piece. Or what would you call that piece?
Yeah, I mean, it's like
Or that style?
yeah, I think it's like I was afraid to say totem. I was like, is that cultural appropriation? I was like, maybe I
Oh
shouldn't say
God.
totem. I don't know. I mean, so then I was
Wait, should we not?
um
I don't think it's cultural appropriation.
I mean,
There
I
can be
don't
many
know.
types of totems.
I said tribe one time, and that got me like.
That's why I'm like, 'cause do I say totem? So what was I calling it? Like spirit guide sticks or something. I had another name for it, but
Spirit sticks.
yeah, spirit sticks. There you go. It's a spirit stick. But
An obelisk?
yeah, whatever you want it to be. But with those, what's super interesting is so the way that I made your piece is I was carving my own stamp. So I'd buy these rubber stamps and I would take this tool and carve lines in it and just like make stamps and then put it like the different stamps in whatever order I felt they should be in, and then that's how I created the piece. It was all intuitive. So for you, I created stamps
Cool.
for your piece, like 5 different stamps, and just like went to
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah.
That's so cool. I didn't know how you did it. I didn't know if it was paint strokes because it could be. It looks a little bit like paint strokes, but that's so cool.
Yeah,
You
it's
like actually carved a stamp.
yeah, I carved a stamp and it's, the ink is oil-based ink. So it's like really, it lasts a long time. It's very archival. It's not just like a regular stamp. It's like, but yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And you said you've been filming. What have you been filming? Or can you talk about it?
Yeah, oh sure. Yeah. Now that I'm not signed to a network, I can do whatever I want. So, Dave, Shane, and I are filming a new project called Paranormal Mysteries. So Shane started his own streaming company called Beacon TV. So he started a streaming platform, I think that's pretty cool. So it's all going on his streaming platform. And yeah, so we just got back from filming in Savannah. We're in Savannah. We were in right outside of Columbus, Georgia, and then we go to Arizona. So it's been fun. It's been like a
Nice.
little bit less pressure. We're just like having fun.
Yeah, it's great. It's amazing what happens when you break the chains of a network.
It's just a different vibe, right? It feels very different. I'm like, oh, I'm so much like more like, I don't know, open and free, and I don't get so stressed when I'm doing my walkthroughs. It's just a different vibe.
It's funny, like I actually feel like there's a weird like shift in the paranormal space. I don't know. It doesn't feel as, I don't know, stressful. I don't know if that's the right word. Like just anyone that I know in the field, like everyone's bummed that their shows aren't coming back, but there's also like a nice optimism amongst everyone. They're just kind of like, yeah, like I've found my groove and I'm moving in it.
You can put your own thing on it now, I feel like.
Yeah,
That's what I feel from the outside.
Right? Everyone's making their own content, and I think that's
Yeah.
exciting. It's like liberating. It's been pretty fun. So I'm excited to see what happens.
So let's talk some mediumship real quick. Now I know that. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe you've told me that you don't do a lot of like predicting, but I mean, are you picking up any vibes for 2025?
Oh, don't even ask. Oh my God, I don't even want to go. I mean, I do some predictions. I only send them to one. Well, there are a couple. I send it to one couple every year for the last couple of years. The only people I send my predictions to, because I'm like, here you go, you asked for it, but I like freak myself out, and then they just hold the predictions, and then they're like, Cindy, it came true. I'm like, oh God, because I do see things like I have predicted some things that have happened, and I've done. Yeah, it freaks me out. I don't like living in that space.
Scary.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a little anxiety inducing.
It is, right? And it's like, what can I do about it? Like these big global events, like sure, even if I see it, what can I actually do about it? And then if I just think about it, it's not making me feel better. And then if I just start telling everybody what I'm predicting, that's not going to make anyone feel any better. Then it just becomes like
everyone's on edge.
Do we need to know something about 2025?
Well, yeah.
Then? Yeah.
No, I mean, no. And then I think the other fear is this. No. It's not like that. I mean, anyway.
It's not like that. No, Cindy, I gotta go.
The other fear is this. It's like, what if I'm wrong? What if I misinterpret? And then I put that out there and people got freaked out and I misinterpreted something. So I'm really just kind of cautious about that stuff, you know? It freaks me out. And then when it's right, I'm like, oh, I'm freaking myself out. I don't want to do this. So
yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Trying to stay away from the doom and
gloom. I
gloom.
feel the same way.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm hearing you say is 2025 is doom and gloom.
Well, I will say this. I feel like 2025 is going to be really interesting and a bit wild. I feel like 2026 is going to be a lot crazier. And then 2027 is going to be like a lot of things are going to be happening. So I feel like we have like if my prediction is correct, the next couple of years, we're just going to see things like really getting real crazy. And by 2027, it's going to get,
Are we referring to like, can we get down to the nitty gritty a little bit? Are we referring to like extraterrestrial, like are we?
That's not even what I'm talking about. I hope they come. That'll make things
okay. That'll be the better. Okay, yeah, that's how I feel.
Come. Please, ET. That's crazy though, because in my meditations, I don't know if I haven't talked to you guys in a while, so you don't know this, but I was like, this is a crazy story. So Ian, my husband and I, we were in South Korea with his family for like a few weeks. So every day we went to the Buddhist temple just because they had chanting, and we would sit there and meditate. And so I was like going into these really deep meditations, and all of a sudden the aliens came in. I was like, what? I was like, the aliens are not like, I don't talk to aliens, right? Like that wasn't really my thing. And they were like coming in hot. And I was like, oh no, this has got to be serious. Like, what is going on, right? And so I really, really felt like they were communicating. And then I was like reaching out to my other friends who are mediums, and I was like, oh, I had this really weird experience with aliens. And they're like, me too. And it was like this theme where lately a lot of people that are really connected to spirit have been feeling aliens. I'm like, what is going on with this, right? So that gets even weirder. So then I'm at this paranormal convention in like in Minnesota. It's Minnesota or Wisconsin? Anyway, it was like a really small paranormal convention. I had to do a talk. I did my talk. I go back to my booth, and this woman comes up to me. I don't know her, right? But she came up to me. She goes, can I ask you something? And I was like, yeah, sure. That's why I'm here. She goes, can we talk about the aliens? I was like, what? And she goes, yeah, I'm a medium too. And I was meditating, and the aliens told me to come talk to you about the aliens. I was like, what is happening?
Holy shit.
I was like, this is getting so weird. And then I don't know. I just kind of like it's been weird. I mean, it hasn't been so strong in the last like month or so, but I don't know what something's happening. It's happening.
There's a lot of people that do believe that it is spiritual in nature, like aliens are, not necessarily angels or demons, but something other than that. But they exist in a spiritual realm.
It's within the same sort of realm, right?
I mean, I believe that 100%. It's like, what the message I got was this, and I thought it was an interesting message.
Does Blue Chew work? If you're asking that question, we want you to know that Blue Chew is putting their money where their mouth is by giving you a month free. That's right, Blue Chew is giving you 1 month free. You could be missing out on the best sex of your life. Blue Chew is an online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but at a fraction of the cost, and in a very fancy, easy-to-use, chewable form. So, what do you have to do to sign up? The process is simple. It's all done online. Sign up at bluechew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you've been approved, you'll receive your prescription shipped directly to your door within days. Don't miss out on the best sex of your life. And no, that won't be with me. Blue Chew wants men rock hard. They told me themselves. That's the mission. They will not stop until every man is bricked up like a brick house. Till every tent is pitched. Till every rod is raised. Discover your options at bluechew.com. And we've got a special deal for our audience. Try Blue Chew free and just pay $5 shipping at the checkout when you visit bluechew.com. That's bluechew.com to receive your first month free. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for being such an awesome sponsor of Ghost and Grit. All right, are you getting ready to travel? Are you as tired of wasting time trying to figure out how to best pack for your travels as I am? Well, I recently discovered a great new travel clothing company called Unbound Merino. Now, I like Unbound Merino because it was created by 3 lifelong friends who wanted to solve the age-old problem of how to pack light, but also look great while traveling. Unbound offers timeless and versatile clothing that will have you looking amazing in any and all situations. Their clothing is made of merino wool, which is temperature regulating, moisture wicking, and most importantly, extremely comfortable. Unbound makes it simple to pack for short or long trips, since their clothing can be worn for weeks without needing to be washed, and no, that's not gross. With Unbound's versatile pieces, you can go from the plain to outdoor adventures to that fancy dinner without the headaches of overpacking or needing to change outfits for every part of your journey. Save on checked baggage fees and spend more time focusing on creating memories with your loved ones, because we all know that is the most important thing. Head over to unboundmerino.com, where new customers can use our code Idaho for 10% off your order. You heard me right. Visit unboundmerino.com and use the code Idaho for 10% off your order. That's unboundmerino.com. Use the code Idaho for 10% off your order.
That people think that all of these aliens are coming in UFOs and these ships, and I was told that's not necessarily the case. A lot of it's going to be through telepathic messaging, and it's going to be very confusing for people because they're going to think they're losing their minds. Like, it's going to be some sort of a frequency that comes in that disrupts people, and they're not going to understand what is happening, right? It's not to say there aren't ships, because I think there's plenty of accounts that you know, people have seen UFOs and all that stuff, but I don't think that that's the only way that people are going to have these experiences. And so I thought that was an interesting message, right? Because everything really at the end of the day, I think, is a frequency, it's a sound. So I don't know, be ready for telepathic alien communication 2027.
Just kind of slipping into my brainwaves. Spooky.
So aliens are coming in 2027.
I mean,
right?
they're already here.
Listeners,
Let's face it. They're not.
it's true.
They're already here.
They're already
It's
here.
so true. I've been spending a lot of time thinking about the simulation theory, and I was listening to a book recently and a podcast and all that about it, and you know, I'm starting to think that, you know, could it be that aliens or whatever these things are that we're seeing, the controllers of the simulation? And if this is...
Oh, yes. Oh, shit. Sorry. Something just came back.
No, go.
No,
go,
we want
go.
you to.
Oh, this is so weird, because this is something else that happened in a meditation where I saw aliens. So it showed up like this. I did not understand what I was seeing, but maybe this is going to help me understand. So I see this vision. There are these 2 aliens, but they look like light. But then they're holding this hologram of the universe, and they're like rotating the hologram around, like you can see it in all directions. So I was like, oh wait, is the universe a hologram? Like, I was very confused. I'm like, what exactly are they showing me? But it was something like that. It was like a simulation or a hologram, or it was like they were trying to show me that they I don't know, maybe they're gonna reveal all of the mysteries, or I mean, I have no idea. But it was very strange.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean,
That is a bit like they're in control.
I mean, that's kind of what I've been on lately. It's like, if this is a simulation, if ghosts, you know, are they programmed into the simulation? Is it, you know, are aliens programmed into the simulation? Just like if you play a video game and you get to like some secret place in it, you're like, oh wait, this is here. But unless you know that that's the secret place, you can't get that. And there's an Easter egg. Like, I don't know. The thing I like about the simulation theory, though, is that it just gives more evidence to the proof of God, because someone created the simulation.
Mm-hmm.
And if there is someone creating a universe, some alien programmer, or maybe it's humans 100,000 years more advanced than us, and we're just living in their video game, like, cool, no, that's a God right there.
Well, I mean, and I think everything's happening right now, past, present, future, all the things are here now. I wouldn't have said that even 5 years ago. My thoughts about, I don't know, the universe or even spirits, all that stuff, they've changed a lot. Even past lives, right? Like, if everything's happening right now, then how do we have a past life? What's actually happening when we feel like we're remembering a past life? So,
Yeah.
we can talk about things in like linear time, right? Because that's easier for us to understand. How do we have a conversation if we don't talk about things in linear time, right? It's really, really complicated. So we kind of need that structure to make sense of what's happening around us. But in my reality, which I can't fully explain or comprehend, everything is right here and right now, and there's nothing that hasn't already been put into the consciousness or into whatever the simulation, whatever you want to call it, right? And so then I think we're remembering aspects of these pieces that are ultimately inside of us. Nothing is separate from us. We're all part of it, right? So it's like there's one frequency and we're all part of that one frequency, so it's even the spirit world, like we're not separate from it. And I've had to really sit with that because I'm a medium, right? I talk to spirits, but what exactly is it that I'm doing when I'm talking to spirits, right? Because I don't believe that, and I think we've talked about this before, I don't believe that the entirety of a soul is like destined to be stuck in a house like forever. Like that doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense. Energetically, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't feel right to say that, but then what is happening, right? And so I think when there's a trauma, when something traumatic happens to a person or at a place, there are these fragments that can be left there, these aspects of that soul that have kind of fractured off, right?
Yeah.
But my soul has to be able to interact with that fragment. So there has to be an understanding between my soul and that fragment for us to even, I don't know, have an experience together. That there's like this co-creation.
No, that makes sense. That's kind of what we say about a space having residual energy. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's not a whole soul left in a place.
No.
It's the memories, it's the trauma, it's the energies felt at a certain time in a certain place.
Yep.
Yeah. It's like the fingerprint of that incident. It doesn't mean that a part of you is if I grab a glass, a part of me is on that glass, but it doesn't mean I'm on that glass.
I mean, and it's also like with near-death experiences, there are several accounts of people having had near-death experiences where they claim to be able to be in many different places at the same time. So time and space, are not linear. Like, and so what is that showing us, right? So like maybe there's an aspect of a soul, this fragmented piece at this haunted location, but then there's another aspect somewhere else. That's possible too. It's all kind of in the mix, But I also think too, like even as people like that aren't dead, I guess we're alive, or are we dreaming? Who knows? Like what's actually happening, right? But when we have traumas, pieces of us can fragment off, or our trauma can be running the show. It's kind of like a similar thing. Like which lens are we looking through when we're walking through life?
Yeah.
What's happening to the spirit,
Well, and it's just that. It's that you just said it perfectly. It's like the lens. I had this realization not long ago that there really is no such thing as reality. There's only perspective.
That's right. That's right.
It's like you and I mean, we're all right now sharing a moment in time together, and my reality of it is totally different from yours.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And so I think people get too hung up on this notion of reality and truth, and I hate this fucking term of my truth. It's like, well, no, it's not your truth. It's just
your perspective.
It's your perspective. Because the truth is so subjective.
It's and right, the environment, like the environment plays a role in it. My
Yeah.
perspective, your perspective, and the environment that we're
Right.
in is influencing how we're perceiving what's happening, right?
Yeah.
So it's there's so many things there's so many things to it, right? And I think
Yeah.
people are very uncomfortable with not knowing. Most people aren't okay being in the mystery. I actually like
Yeah.
the mystery. I've become okay with not having to fully understand everything. And because that allows me to be present. And then when you're
Yeah.
really present, you stop trying to figure everything out, it's where all the magic is, truly. Like,
Yeah.
mhm.
I was talking to someone today about how there's no growth in worrying. You know, you can't
Right.
if you're always I'm stressed, I'm worried, I'm thinking about this, thinking about like how are you ever gonna grow from that? And I kind of, I say that based on what you were just saying is the sense of like if you think you've got it figured out, then there's no point in continuing on because mission accomplished.
People like to have control.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
totally.
if they have it all figured out, then they're in control.
Mhm.
The
It's
mystery
scary.
is scary.
Yeah, the mystery is scary, right? The
Yeah.
mystery is scary. Uh, until it's not scary. Then it can become like a playground. It's like,
Yeah.
what's happening now? I don't really know, but it leaves it open. It leaves space for curiosity. I think that uh, that's allowed me to just be so uh, open in experiencing other cultures and religions and how they view the spirit world, right? Because I stopped telling myself that I knew exactly what was happening. I was like, actually, I really don't know what's happening at all. Because I realized, like, the training that I had for mediumship was very structured, and it was like things are this way. And then I was very much like just kind of had these blinders on. And then I realized, like, that was not a way for me to get to know other people or to be open to hearing their perspective or their experiences with the spirit worlds and energies, right? And
Yeah.
life is so much more interesting when you don't know anything, when you're just open. You're like, because you learn so much from. I learned so much from other people.
Yeah, it's funny. I recently, I did that podcast last week about just kind of getting honest about 2024 and just laying a bunch of stuff out there. And I mentioned that I've been doing psychedelics, ceremonies, journeys, whatever you want to call them, in very much a therapeutic setting. But so much of these realizations have actually come on the heels of that. And I think it's, as cliche as it sounds, but like those experiences have really kind of altered how I'm choosing to have my experience.
Well, the same for me. I mean, I would say like the experiences that I've had using plant medicines in therapeutic settings, that's important set in settings. This is not a recreational,
Yeah.
I'm going to go eat some mushrooms, go to a fish concert. That was when I was like 18. That's,
They're very different experiences.
it really has changed my life in like a really big way. And through working, with plant medicines, I had this realization. I was like, because I haven't had alcohol in 21 years, right? Like we have the same amount of time. I think you're 21 years, right? So
Yeah.
And I had a crisis of sobriety because I had my first ceremony with plant medicine when it was like 15 years without drinking, and I was like, what am I doing? But then like ayahuasca had been calling me for a long time. I'm like, well, what is happening? Why is it calling me? And there's this whole series of kind of things lined up where let me tell you what happened, because this is actually pretty crazy. So I was thinking about ayahuasca. I was like, I can't do it. It's like, no, it was too risky or whatever. I had this intuition. I was like, oh, I need to go to Lilydale this weekend. So Lilydale is a spiritualist community in upstate New York, right? Oh yeah, you've been there, right? Okay, so
Yeah.
this was, God, this must have been in 2017 or something. I didn't even know where I was going. I've been there so many times. I just bought a ticket. I trusted it. I get there. It's Friday. I see one of my good friends there. I was like, yeah, I don't know why I'm here this weekend. Something just told me to come. And she goes, "Oh, it's AA weekend." I was like, "What do you mean it's AA weekend? I've been coming to Lilydale since like 2008. There's never been an AA weekend. What are you talking about?" And so there's a whole weekend where these circuit speakers from AA were there doing this PowerPoint presentation about how the founders of Alcoholics Anonymous were into spiritualism. They did automatic writing, they did seances, and I'm sitting there like, how did I not know any of this? Like my mouth was hanging open the whole time. I'm like, what the hell is going on? I'm just like, I couldn't even understand what I was like hearing. And
They also did LSD.
they did exactly. So this is what happens, right? So then I didn't know that either. Like I'm just like I didn't know. And so then this guy, one of the circuit speakers, he looked like an old hippie, honestly, but he was like, "Oh yeah, and then they really believed in the therapeutic use of psychedelics," and I was like, "What?" I was like, "How did it like what is happening?" Not only do I feel so validated that I talked to dead people because they did automatic writing, and now it's kind of like, and they understood that psychedelic substances could help with different addictions and depression and things like that, right?
Yeah.
And so that was kind of like made me feel a little bit more okay that I was feeling called to try ayahuasca, right? Okay, so and then it was shortly after that that I reached out to a friend, or we were just talking. I didn't even reach out to her for that specific reason, but I mentioned to her that I was like, yeah, this is what's been going on. She goes, "Oh, I know a shaman. Here, I'm going to give you this person's number." And then it was like everything lined up in such a way that if it hadn't happened in that order, I don't think that I would have done it, right? Um, but through the process of having these experiences, it's completely like changed my perspective on a lot of things. But it's also made me understand like really what I was looking for, even in my drinking, was that like my connection to spirit, my connection to myself, my ability to like find this like home inside of myself. I know that sounds kind of corny, but it's like so yeah, I mean, in the right environment, in the right setting, done responsibly, I think it's a game changer. I'm a huge advocate. I will say that I've seen some facilitators like, and I've heard some stories from people about facilitators that are not great. And so it's like for anybody who's listening to this, like be mindful. It's like
Yeah, do your research. Find
No,
someone,
absolutely.
like do it with people who have done it with like you can't just it's not like go online, find ayahuasca journey and
.com.
yeah, like
I have a much deeper like connection honestly to like nature now, and I feel so
Yeah.
like god, I'm such an asshole, excuse me the language, like I've just been wandering around my life like not even caring, like not even thinking about any of that stuff, just being on a totally different I don't know, frequency or whatever, and it's like all I want to do is be in nature now. I'm like, I want to go hang out in some trees, like
My connection to trees now is insane. And thank God we have a daughter named
Maple.
Maple, but
right.
But I mean, talk about if you want, you guys have journeyed together.
we've journeyed together in a therapeutic space.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that night in particular being so connected to trees and thinking of them as dinosaurs.
Mm.
And they are. Like, think about it. They've got so many stories to tell, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've been around for so long, and you just look and you're like, there are trees everywhere. Remember we were driving in the car. Where were we going? We went to Neskowin, Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that?
Yeah.
And I just remember looking at how many trees were around us. I don't know why in this instance, but there were so many trees around us, and you think like you just walk all over trees, and you don't think anything of it.
Even thinking about like rocks and water
Rocks
and
too.
elements, and
Mm-hmm.
everything has a spirit. And when I was a kid, I used to play with rocks, like what kids play with rocks, but I specifically remember thinking that rocks have feelings. I'm like, rocks have
Yeah.
feelings, and like I never really thought much about it. I was a kid, and then when I started like spending more time, learning about different traditions, things like that. It's like, no,
Mhm.
yeah, like rocks are, they're the ancestors.
I'm
Yeah.
right there with you with rocks. Like I still to this. No, you know that. You know that. Like rocks are like, oh, cool, like a rock. No. Everywhere we go, everywhere we travel, I come back with like 17 rocks. Our house in Idaho, every shelf I have
There's rocks
rocks.
everywhere.
Maple
I was like,
collects
why are
rocks,
there
Minnie
rocks here?
collects rocks. Like I love collecting rocks.
Hmm.
Yeah.
The
Rocks and trees are cool.
that uh I sent you that text earlier about the telepathy
Yeah.
files,
I was
telepathy
going to
tapes.
mention telepathy tapes
Yes, and there's an episode that we were listening to last night in bed
about rocks.
about rocks, and
Yeah.
this young, well, he was a young man. He was like in his 20s, but non-auditory autistic man, and he was very much into his rocks, and he explains through this like translator app that he communicates through, that he can feel the energy from them and their transmitters and like all this stuff, and it's like it's pretty remarkable.
You think
And-
about crystals and gemstones and
oh,
stuff, and they all have a power, and you can feel that. I honestly feel
you
that when
can.
you hold specific gems or crystals, you feel the power that they have.
But a lot of people think it's bullshit.
It's not a placebo effect, and I feel like I could truly vouch.
No, it's real. It's real.
What is the stone? And people are always like, you got to be so careful with this stone. Like, you shouldn't wear it unless you're really ready for change in your life.
Oh.
Where do I get one?
Is it the
No, I
one that
actually,
comes from the meteorite that fell?
yes.
Oh,
Yes.
oh my God, it's so strong. What is that one
It's the
called?
strongest, and I've been so, like, I want it so bad, but, like, I'm
You should
scared.
get I have a tiny one, and sometimes I hold it and I'm like, oh my God. I was like, if I had millions of dollars, I would buy so many of these and make
Mhm.
like a bed of it, and it would like transport
I
you.
mean, listen, I back the tree vibe, the plants. I've never been one that's felt necessarily energetically connected to rocks. It's just not been my thing. I get down with sage, Palo Santo, all that. For some reason, just rocks aren't. I don't know if I'm not tuned to it, but yeah, rocks aren't my vibe.
Not yet.
Not
Not
yet?
yet. I just feel, yeah, I feel like soon you'll get there. You'll get yourself into a plant medicine space where rocks
Well,
will
I say
call
that.
you.
I say that, but I was a rock climber for many years, and I spent a lot of time in connection with rocks. So maybe that's where I connect.
I used to, when I was in furniture design, I would collect rocks on vacations or road trips or whatever, and I would take these rocks into work and I would get inspiration from these rocks, whether it was the feeling that the rock gave me from like maybe the space that it came from or the colors that were on it, or I don't know. I started collecting from Maple's first time doing things. I collect rocks and I've labeled them on the bottom. And
I know, I've seen that.
But it's really not that weird when you think about it. I mean, we are nature. We are
Yeah.
we are
We were cavemen.
We're
Yes.
water, we're all of it. We're not separate
Mhm.
from it. So that's where I
No.
think we forget. Like we walk around thinking that we're separate from all of these things when we actually are all of these things.
Yeah.
We're within it.
One of the last journeys I did, I had a very interesting kind of realization, and I was like, everything in life boils down to two things: where's my cave and where's a safe space to sleep at night. That's all we're doing. Like me going out to get a job, to make money, to buy a cave, to then create a safe place to sleep at night. The simplification of the experience, I think is something I hold dear as a result of doing plant medicine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, for me, I'll tell you, in my experience, because I spend so much time in spirit with the work that I do, right? That for me, like Wachuma, is really grounding for me, and then that, like, the more grounded that we become, I think the further out we can expand. You're not like getting swept away by all of the things, right? There's not as many distractions. Like you can have these big experiences while still being very much grounded inside of yourself. I think that's really important, even for people. Like I tell my students, you know, that I teach mediumship, that when I first started studying mediumship, I thought that I was supposed to be so out, like blasted out of my crown chakra. But over time, I realized no, I'm supposed to actually be going in, because everything is actually in here, right? It's not
Mm,
outside of me. And it's really hard to comprehend that sometimes, because we're told that that's not the case. Like, you
yeah.
know, God is up
Right.
here and we're here and this is this and this is this. But we have to have the experience of duality to know, uh, uh, like who we are, right? Like, I know that my hair is black because your hair is blonde and you're different than me. So I know it's like we're always searching to
Mhm.
find differences so we can understand who we are, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's that for me, it's that quest of looking, well, who am I? What am I trying to do
Yeah.
out of this experience?
Hmm.
It's scary to go deep within there sometimes.
And then it gets funny because, like, on that thought, the same journey that I was on, of thinking about the cave, I started laughing and I was like, we're so lucky. I could have been a squid, but somehow the universe came together and made me a human.
Hmm.
And it's fucking awesome. Like, it's so cool. You look at how many billions of, living things there are on Earth,
Hmm.
and
And we're humans.
we're humans. And it's like far out. And what people are probably listening to this being like, what the fuck are these people
We're
on?
journeying
Are you
right now.
Yeah.
right now? Are you guys on
Yeah.
mushrooms?
Just a cocktail of
Yeah, I'm just
things.
on a heroic dose real quick on a, Tuesday night at 9:15.
You know, I was.
But it's true though.
Yeah,
It's like,
go ahead. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, but having that perspective, it's like, man, like it's a mirror. It's what a gift. And it doesn't, and as shitty as this last year has been for me, and as like a kick in the guts, I'm just like, but what a cool fucking experience. Like,
Mhm.
I'm a human being in 2024 living in Los Angeles and Idaho. It's like, no matter how shitty it is, it's still a fucking cool experience.
Mhm.
No, because then imagine when we get out of these hardships, big or small, what that feels like. How triumphant that feels like as a human. You
Mhm.
made it through, you got stronger, you learned stuff.
Yeah.
You're in a different perspective or lens, you
Yeah.
know?
I mean, it's. I guess that one of like the biggest events in my life that changed a lot of things for me, right, was my
Hmm.
brother's death. So I think
Yeah.
like that. And I'm bringing it up because, like, you know, we talk about hardship and change in perspective, and it was such a my brother was my teacher, right? Like his death taught me so much, and I realized like how much and I can only speak for myself, so let me say I, right, um, was trying to run from pain in my life, like, you know, in a lot of different ways. But even in my brother's, you know, death process, I didn't want him to die. Like I was like trying to run from that pain. And I had an ayahuasca journey. This changed everything for me. It was a New Year's Eve journey. The New Year's Eve before my brother died. And I knew he was very sick, but I didn't know how much time he had because he passed from diabetes, right? Complications of diabetes. In the ayahuasca journey, I was shown all of my brother's pain, all of his trauma, all of everything he's went through. Like I felt it, I saw it, and in that space, um, I had like such deep compassion for him, because you know when somebody doesn't want to take care of themselves when they have diabetes, you're like, "What are you doing? I'm so mad at you.
Mm.
Why won't you fix this?" It like became very much about me because I didn't want him to go, and I didn't want to watch that, you know? And once I saw all of his pain, I had the deepest amount of compassion for him. And I the next day I was so grateful because I was like, you know what? Like this is about me showing up for him and just loving him and
Yeah.
not judging him and not being mean to him and not trying to control his life so it can be easier for me. See what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really really profound, right? And then even as somebody that's in the public eye talking about spirituality and connecting to spirits, like uh, didn't really know what grief was. I mean, I did, but I didn't, right? I hadn't experienced it on that level. And I learned like that there's so much pain, but in that pain there's also kind of like this beauty. I know that sounds messed up, but it's like death is like, we have to experience death that way so we know that we're alive. It's that duality again.
Yeah.
I want to like, I don't know, I don't want to look at things that way. Like I want to show up for people in their dying processes and just like do it in a different way, because we're not equipped in this, then especially in our culture, we are so ill prepared for death. Like people don't want to talk about it, they're afraid of it. It's this, and it's like doesn't have to be that way. So I don't know, that was a little bit of a tangent, but it's just like that human experience, right? It's being in this human experience, and I guess where I'm going with it is that a lot of us are trying to avoid these deep parts of the human experience because we don't like the way that these parts make us feel, right? The shadow pieces, but it's all part of it, and it all has value, and ultimately all of these experiences help us relate to one another on a much deeper level, and it creates more like connection, actually more connection, less division, right?
You know, I think for so long I've chased that carrot of like, oh, I must be happy. I must like happiness. Happiness is the goal. And I'm kind of at a landing at a place of it's not about happiness. It's about balance. You can't be overly, you can't have a huge amount of happiness and have zero, negativity or zero adverse effects or anything, because you don't know how to handle it. I need to have the tools to be able to manage all sadness, happiness, grief, elation, feeling euthymic, like whatever. It's that balance that I'm trying to chase after.
Yeah, and I mean it's interesting because for the last like 6 months, like I was telling you about the Buddhist temple and going to the Buddhist temple, I've been really like into learning more about Buddhism because it's so grounded, right? But it's about finding balance, right? A lot of our suffering comes from desire, from wanting or thinking we need these things. It creates suffering, right?
But then again, there's a lot of purpose in suffering.
That's true.
And you normally see it after.
Yeah, Buddhism doesn't say like you shouldn't suffer. It's actually suffering is part of it, but it's more of like I think it's more recognizing when you're out of balance, right? Not being grounded. Like all of these desires, what are they for? Why are we desiring these things? What is that masking, right?
Winter is officially here, which means cold weather and a lot more time on the go. Vionic has the best essential styles for everyday wear to get you ready for the season. Slippers, flats, boots, sneakers, and so much more. Make sure to check out the Aree Wedge Booty. Beautiful, rich leather uppers combined with lightweight, sporty sole. This is the ultimate versatility meets workability booty. Features a side zip for easy on-off and water repellent to take on the season's weather elements. What sets Vionic apart from the competition? Well, it's the exclusive Vio Motion technology. Vionic revolutionized medical orthotics, and today they continue to use that science to engineer shoes that leave you feeling energized and confident all day. The shoes give me the support and comfort that I need, and the online shopping experience that is as easy as it gets. And even if you aren't absolutely in love with your new Vionics, they offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. So, what are you waiting for? Use the code Idaho at the checkout for 15% off your entire order at vionicshoes.com. One-time use only. Again, that's code Idaho at the checkout for 15% off your entire order at vionicshoes.com. Vionic Shoes, wearable well-being for your feet. All right, I've got a few questions for you folks listening. Are you trying to start the new year off right by staying active and hitting the gym? Are you struggling, like I did, to find the right fitting activewear that fits you just right, that's not too big, not too tight? Could you use a little more room in the midsection after eating all those delicious holiday meals? Well, True Classic shirts are specifically designed to give your midsection some breathing room. And I love my True Classic activewear because it's odor-fighting and quick-drying activewear for all the long, hard days working on the ranch. Because they offer premium clothing at a very affordable price. True Classic offers free shipping to all orders and offers a 100% perfect fit guarantee with easy returns if for some reason it doesn't fit quite right. So join me and my dad and over 4 million others that trust True Classic for their perfect fitting long sleeve Henleys, waffle hoodies, jeans, button ups, joggers, and so much more. So start the new year off with clothes that actually fit right. Just go to my exclusive link at trueclassic.com/Idaho to save. That's trueclassic.com/Idaho. One more time, visit trueclassic.com/Idaho. Shop now and elevate your wardrobe today. And this isn't just BS. I literally just had to order my dad 10 more of the t-shirts that he just loves from True Classic. By far, it has been my favorite find of 2024. So thank you for sponsoring the podcast, True Classic. I am a loyal customer. What do you think plant medicine, like, where's it taking us? Because I have a weird, I want to hear your theory on it, because I
have an interesting theory on it. I haven't. Well, I have some ideas. I mean, look, it's like this. It's like I believe plants have their own intelligence. Plants, like, obviously, some of these medicines are endangered. They're being, you know, used too much in the wrong way or taken advantage of, especially by people in the West. Being honest, like going to like, there's a lot of stuff happening, right, with these plants. And I've heard a couple people say, and I believe it to be true, that, like, especially with like ayahuasca has an intelligence of its own, and even if you do it one time, it can still communicate with you, right? Some people think that the spirit of ayahuasca will be like communicating without people having to even take ayahuasca. That's one, like, an idea, right? Like psilocybin and wachuma, like, I feel like those are in abundance. Like, I feel like I hope they become more available to people, because I think that they should be available to people. I don't think that they should be, what is it, a Schedule 3? Like, I don't even know what schedule it is. Like, it's like on the same.
It's still the same as like heroin.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's wild.
But it's like, with all of the research that's being done and that's been done, I think, a lot of people are understanding that these substances, these plants, do help people. I mean, there's a lot of research, especially with veterans with PTSD.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Ibogaine, become a real popular one amongst the veteran communities now,
and for addiction.
Yeah, they're being used a lot.
So I think it's gonna be decriminalized. I hope. I mean, it's kind of going that way.
I think so.
Is that in your 2027 prediction?
Where do you feel that?
I'm really talking about that in my 2027 prediction. But I think my fear is that, like, it's going to get shut down again like it did before, You're going to have a couple bad players that, like, make some bad choices, and then it gets shut down again. And I really hope that doesn't happen,
Yeah. I agree. Because, but it is funny. It's like, for the longest time because, you've known that I've done this for 7 years now, and I haven't spoken about it because as I was talking about that previous podcast, like, fear of judgment. It's like
there's a stigma too. You're sober. You've been sober for 21, nearly 22 years.
Yeah.
And it's not recreational, and it's hard to explain that to somebody who hasn't been called to the medicine before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And I don't think it's a cop out. I don't think I'm sitting here just trying to justify, and distill claim.
You and I, can we talk about that? We recently did a psilocybin journey together. I mean, I can safely say that there's a lot of work done in those moments. It's not fun.
No. Oh my God.
No.
You're not watching your faces melt off and giggling the whole time. Like, you were.
There was actually very little, like, laughter. It's not like we were like.
There wasn't a whole lot of laughter, but that's okay. Every journey is different. You go in, you're called to it for a different reason. I think ours was to really connect and have hard conversations, and I feel like we did that.
Yeah.
And we came out of it. I had a shift in perspective, at least, and
just listen to me talk to myself.
It was so strange. Like, he talks out loud when he. I don't know if it's with everything. Well, yeah. and past ones you've also talked out loud, but he talks out loud. But it was so strange because in this specific journey, I knew what was meant for me to be either here or be a part of. And so I would kind of like slip in and like do my own thing, and we would come back together and have these really healing conversations, and then slip out, and it sounded like he was light years away, but when it was meant for me, he was so close, and we would, have those conversations. And yeah.
But it's funny in that journey, kind of going back to my question to you, what I had perceived is that there's coding in everything. Everything's if this is a simulation, everything's got code into it. And the medicine for me, it's like getting a bit of code put into my system that unlocks something else. And I could see it.
Yeah.
And I could see that. I was like, oh wait, everything is coded energy exchange. Everything we eat, everything we drink, there's coding in it, and then your body reacts to that code. And I was able to like really see it. It was very profound. Man, we're turning into like psychedelic nerds.
No, but I was just about to say something very random, but on the food note, like you're putting that into your body just as you are plant medicine, right?
And animals,
and
it's
yes. And if you really like, I could go really deep with that, but it's the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Food is a medicine.
Food is sacred.
Yeah.
Food is medicine.
Yeah.
And you're putting all this I could go off of red 40 for a very long time as well, but you're putting red 40 in your system. What's that?
Yeah, I do think, just to that red 40 point, like I think that there is a shift going on a deeper level. And I think people are
eyes are being
opened, and it's so funny. Every time I kind of mention, plant medicine now or journeys or whatever to people who are by and large strangers, it's amazing how many people are like, oh yeah, I just journeyed, or oh, I just did this, or oh, I'm really interested. Like there's some strange thing in my life right now where it's putting a lot of people in front of me that are kind of in that space, and it's remarkable the things that are kind of happening as a result of it.
Yeah, I think people are just being called to it because times are really difficult right now.
Yeah. Well, and look, these like plants, people have been using these plants for thousands and thousands of years. This is not new. It's and I think what I hope doesn't happen is that things get really big in the West, and that the indigenous ways get forgotten about. I think that needs to be remembered, right? Because like it's a lot of like ceremony and stuff that's been around for thousands of years that I think it's not I'm not indigenous, but I've been to ceremonies with indigenous peoples, and I have a lot of respect for those traditions in a sense. It's like, and I feel like some of that stuff gets lost like when things become above ground in the West, right? So I just like kind of want to throw that out there, like remembering where these traditions came from. I think that's important.
I think as Europeans living in America, it's our traditions have been forgotten. I couldn't tell you. My family's like, I'm like 99.9%, white European. But I couldn't tell you any kind of ceremony or tradition that is a part of, being from England. Like it's short of going to the pub or, there's no, and I think it's so important that rites of passage and ceremonial settings occur. And it doesn't anymore.
There's a book called Betwixt and Between. It's about how we don't really have in our culture like proper initiation rituals, right? So people get confused because you're like, wait, am I a woman or am I still a girl, or am I a boy or am I a man now? Or like there's like the because rituals like that help people really understand, okay, this is what I am now, and this is my role now, right? But we don't really have have that. And I think it kind of, I don't know, it's just, I think some of that stuff is important in culture.
I think it's massively important because it comes down to, I'll tie it back to our conversation, a few minutes ago, but about knowing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's like how I've had to be guided a lot, and I actually think this is partly why 12-step recovery is so, why it works,
Mm-hmm.
is because it taps into our tribal coding, because there's a rite of passage. Whatever 12-step group you're in, you've earned your seat there. You haven't walked in, to a, whether it's the beverage program or drug, whatever. You haven't walked into a room because for no reason. Like, you're there for a reason. So you got your rite of passage. You've earned your seat. There's very much a tribal structure. Everyone must contribute. The winners are the ones that contribute the most and do the most service and work. And there's rules you got to follow.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it taps into that part of our lost kind of history.
Mm-hmm.
And so much of addiction, I think, is rooted in feeling alone and not a part of something.
When I was studying social psychology, I took this one course. It's called social cognition, and basically, I learned that most of our cognitions are driven by our desire to belong. Like, if you think about that,
Mm-hmm.
in any given moment when you're interacting with somebody else, if you really look at how you engage, the things that you say, like how you present yourself, the desire to belong is such a huge part of the human experience. And when we don't feel like we belong, everything feels like bad, right? So it creates loneliness, disconnection. We don't know who we are. Where do I fit in? That's like what's creating most of the problems in the world. It's creating all of the, in groups, out groups. People hate each other because they're different. Whatever. It's like it boils down to, who am I? How do I identify with which group? And do I feel safe? And do I belong? It's so lizard brain. It's like it's right. And I think what happens when at least for me, when I have done some journeys, is I felt connected to everything. And that doesn't mean just people, it means nature, it means everything, it means the cosmos. And you realize, like, I'm not separate from any of this, I belong everywhere. And that is one of the most deeply therapeutic things I think I could have experienced. Because in those moments, it doesn't matter, like, all the traumas that you experienced. Yeah, like, in moments like that, it doesn't. They don't even exist. It's like it doesn't matter. Um, so it's like, in trauma can make you feel like you don't belong. It can fragment you. Life isn't easy. Like, it's
No,
not easy. It's just not easy.
no. And I think everyone is. For me personally, I know I have yearned for it to, like, oh, when's it gonna get easier? When's it gonna get easier? And it's going against what it is. It's not meant to be easy. It's meant to be, my favorite quote. I say it all the time, but it's from oh wait, I'm having a brain fart right now. It's Jordan Peterson. He has this quote. He goes, you're not entitled to happiness. You're entitled to an adventure.
That's it. And that's like what was interesting, because I was going to say, too, it's about being in flow. It's more about, like, not always trying to resist what's happening, right? Even if it's uncomfortable. It's like, oh, this is uncomfortable. I'm in flow with that. It's like, it's an adventure. It doesn't always feel good, but I'm in it, and here we are, right? Instead of saying, I'm running away from that, I'm not doing that. That's,
Right. And healing is not linear.
no,
There's
absolutely.
no end time for healing either. Like, you are healing always. You're always healing. You're always learning.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not something you just get out of.
One of the most challenging things for me to, like, I guess, embrace is having compassion for myself mostly, right? Because it's like that's hard when when there's shame and you're working through all your stuff and going into the shadow. Like when I started to be okay with who I used to be in those moments where I wasn't the best version of myself, like when I was drinking or whatever, when I started to look at that part of myself and be like, you know what, I love that 20-year-old girl. Like, I love her and all of her crazy behavior. I love, like, when I started to have compassion for all of those pieces, a big shift happened inside me. Huge. And really, and I'm still working on it, but it was such a gift. Like that's the biggest gift you can give yourself, is to look at those pieces of yourself and just to be like, I love that piece. I have compassion for it. And then you can just, then everything starts to get easier. You start to be able to have compassion for your family, your parents, your friend, whatever, you know?
Yeah, that's a hard one. Because you look at bad times in your life, or times that you weren't making the best choices or the same choices you're making now. And I personally tend to look at that version of myself and be like, ugh, just not grow. There's no growth there. That's not. And yeah, you have to love those parts of yourself because it got you here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's all part of that adventure. It's all part of that journey. You had to be that way during that time.
Mm-hmm.
Go through those things during that time
Mm-hmm.
to get here now.
Who was it? I was listening. Do you know who Alan Watts is? I was listening to this podcast. So good. Uh, Alan Watts, he's not alive anymore, but his son has this podcast where he plays the old recordings of his dad's lectures and stuff. You should really check it out.
That's cool.
But I was really talking about how everybody's trying to like say that they're not this, they're not that, or we have to view everything through the lens of duality to, like I was saying before, to find identity, to maintain identity, and this is the point. I'm getting there. So you should listen to Alan Watts. That's part of it, because he's like a genius. Okay, but like for a lot of people, the connection to, at least well, for most people, the connection to our parents, to our mothers, is like, that's the biggest one, right? Like that is the biggest connection. I'm not a mom. I give so much credit to moms. Good for you, Aree. Good for all the moms, because like it seems like such a tough job, and it's like you feel like, look, I know like the relationship I had with my mom before she passed away, and all the healing that I've had to do, and all the things, but I got this message once. It was because a lot of us will say when we have difficult relationships, well, I'm not my mother, right? Like that's a fun one to say. I'm not my mother, but in reality, yes, we're all our mothers. We're all our mothers, right? We came from our mothers, right? So that like wanting to not be our mothers, so resistant. I am not my mother. I will never, like, right? It's actually it's again, it's that like resisting, it's like pushing against it, it's not having compassion. And so when I had started having compassion for myself, then could have all this compassion for my mother, and I was like, oh my God, I'm such an asshole. Like she tried to do all these things, it wasn't perfect, but it changed the entire script.
Yeah, I think that's a tool that I could take into parenting too, because when I became a mom and a stepmom, the only thing that you know when you become a parent is how you were parented. And so I've harbored a lot of resentment during that time. And when you parent in the moment, it's hard for me to stay present because I'm trying to just constantly stay in this like lane where I'm not doing what my mom did, because that wasn't what I would choose to do now, but also, and so I'm not present. And my mom wasn't perfect, and neither am I, but that's okay. So to have compassion for that it just takes that weight off of everything, and you can become more present.
I think that's probably a good note to end this on, of tell people to
I feel like this
love your moms.
Like, what did we talk about? I am like,
I was just thinking, like, I hope that was okay.
wait, can we edit this?
On my end.
Like, I don't even know what just happened. I went into
You did great.
I don't know what I'm talking about. I went into a trance. Aliens, psychedelics, mothers. Oh my
No,
god.
it's all
It
good.
all no, you did great. I feel like I learned something tonight too.
All
Oh,
right, before we go, I have to ask one question, Cindy. I'm convinced. So we're doing this. We're in the basement of my parents' house. I'm
Oh,
convinced this house is haunted as
yeah.
of
fuck.
course
Like
it
very.
is.
Are you
Yeah.
picking anything up?
Jack,
Like
of
down
course
here
it's haunted.
especially.
There's so much weird shit. I mean, I've never actually been there, but I'm like, oh, look, there's probably so many weird items in there that have psychic imprinting and like residual weird shit. Of course.
Yeah. No, this did
No,
like
I don't feel good down here.
I've seen like I think it's like a young girl running around in the basement here. My daughter keeps waking up and seeing someone stood in her room. Yeah, there's some juju here.
Of course there is. Oh wait, can I add one more thing? Because actually, I want
Yeah.
to say
Please.
this. Because when I was watching your last podcast for where you were sharing all of those amazing things, which I have to say, like I was watching it, I was like, oh my God, Jack is such a badass. This is so awesome and brave and vulnerable, and I was like so on board. So thank you for that. That thought that was like really really awesome. And you're talking about the demonic presence in
Mm.
the family, right? And I wanted to mention this to you, and I forgot until now that uh, in a lot of the meditations, and actual meditations, not plant medicine journeys, I'm not just using meditation for plant medicine right now, but in actual like meditations I've been doing, I've been really seeing how like the memories and the imprints from our ancestors are in our aura, right? And those like feelings, traumas, things that aren't even ours are in our energetic field, and we can't tell that they're not ours. So we can experience the emotion of the trauma
Mm.
of our ancestors. It's like
Mm.
ancestral trauma, right? It's in there, and it gets passed down from generation to generation to generation to generation, right? And you know, so do I believe in demonic entities? I do. I think that there is a darkness. And I also think that ancestral trauma can be in the aura so intensely, and it can be, passed down for so many generations, and it's never been faced, that it can feel like an attachment. It can feel like something
Mm.
like that. Do you see what I mean?
So
Yeah, this makes sense.
intuitively, are you feeling it's more kind of like ancestral trauma, epigenetics type stuff?
Right. It's like,
Yeah.
because okay, here's a good example. Actually, I'll give you this example. I think it's well, it's a little bit extreme, but you'll see where I'm going with it. I did that Ed Gein investigation. It was a shock doc that I did, where
Hmm.
I had to go to Ed Gein, the serial killer's
Mm.
childhood home, and uh, it was super disturbing because I was tapping into all of the things that he had done, right? Which, all those movies were based on his life. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Silence of the Lambs, like, right?
Hmm.
And so I felt all the psychic imprinting. And then I saw all of his trauma, right? And I saw his mother, and I saw what she had done to him, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then in that moment I had this compassion for him. Even though he did all these horrible things, I was like, whoa, he didn't stand a chance. Like he was raised in a really terrible environment. It was like the perfect storm, okay? So I was like angry at the mother, and I all I did was be angry at the mother, and that's where I left it. And I was angry at him, but I was angry at her, and I blamed her. I finished the shoot. We wrapped it up. It probably took me 6 months to put this together. But I was like, wow, my compassion stopped at like seeing his trauma, but I had no compassion for the mother. But who was her mother? And who was her father? And who were their parents? And who were the parents before them? It didn't just start with her.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, it's
And
like a
It's a very good point.
it's like a domino. Well, it's a domino effect.
It is.
and
Yeah.
and so like congratulations to you like for doing the work, because you're not just doing it for you, you're actually like healing the lineage by facing those pieces and looking at those pieces, because not everybody can do that. It's not possible for some people. They're not ready, or it's whatever, it's a different generation. But when you were sharing that experience, that's what came to my mind. I was like, oh man, that's interesting. It's like the ancestral trauma in the auric field, and it can feel that heavy. It can present that way. The medicine can be showing you whatever you experienced in that journey, the aspects that have been in the family lineage that have caused problems for a very long time.
Do you think there's anything, what do you think about the fact that I was given name of it? Do you think that's just, you know?
Don't repeat it.
Yeah.
But I would say,
God, it's like Voldemort.
and sometimes it's this too. And I'm not taking, look, like I don't want to take away from your experience, because I know.
No. I mean, because it's funny because we've had discussions about this. You know, Aree and I have said, do you think this is just kind of?
I don't believe it's an actual like. It's this guy that's attached to him. I more so feel what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think that makes sense.
Sometimes you need to give things a name to make it real. Like it's like it makes it, like it gives it form. It gives it.
It simplifies it almost.
Yeah, it gives it like structure. It right, but
Yeah.
because otherwise everything's just kind of floating around, and it's harder to make sense of it. You don't know how to grab it. You can't quite wrap your head around it. So when it has like this form or it's this. But I wouldn't, if I were you, as your friends, I wouldn't like lean too hard into you have a demon attached to you. I would
No, because I actually don't. Yeah, I don't. Like, I'm not like, doing the sacrament and like dousing myself in holy water or anything like that. But I think, yeah. Although that was some demonic shit that happened to my mom. So I don't know.
That was crazy.
That was crazy. Look, I'm not saying that that stuff doesn't exist, because it does, and there's other stuff too.
Sure. Yeah.
That can be in the auric fields. But good for you for like diving in and being the trailblazer, like in like for your lineage and working through the stuff, right?
Well, Cindy, thank you so much for jumping on a podcast with us at 9:30 at night after you've had a long day of travel.
I can't even imagine.
I feel like I'm like hearing, when you're like outside of your body listening to yourself talk, and you're like, did that actually make sense? I'm like,
no, it did.
I don't know if I'm here or not.
No, you did great.
Yeah.
And wait, where can people find you?
Oh, you can find me at cindykaza.com. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, all those things. But cindykaza.com is my website.
And you're touring.
So next week I'll be in New York. I have events in Syracuse, Albany, West Nyack. Then I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Then I'm in Florida. So you can find all my live events at cindykaza.com.
Awesome.
Perfect.
And folks, if you've watched this and you've enjoyed it, please hit like and subscribe, because that helps us keep going. All right, folks, have a good one.